to buy Black in Loudoun. Over the next hour, we will be taking a deeper dive into what it means to buy Black in Loudoun. As they say, there are levels to this. So as a business owner facing the trials and triumphs of launching one's own business, there are even more layers that come with being a Black business owner. And today's discussion will focus on what it means to be a Black business owner and what it really means to buy Black. So I just want to first thank all of our speakers who have taken the time out of their busy schedules to participate in tonight's event. I want to quickly introduce this evening's panelists so we can hear from them specifically about who they are and what they do. So thank you to Brandon Ferris, who is the Business Development Manager at Loudoun County's Virginia Economic Development, Nicole Nixon, who is CEO of Listing Central LLC, Carmen Felder, CEO of Authentic Connections, Shannon Curvay, who is owner of Function and Fitness, B. Maddox, who is the CEO of VR Maddox Consulting and the mastermind behind Black Wall Street Loudoun, and Jennifer Nakfi, who is the founder and maker of Oh So Good Organics. So thank you all very much. And I'm just going to give our panelists a chance to talk about who they are, what their business is, whether or not they're 100% business owners versus owners with employees. And I also want you guys to give us a quick insight into what you do. Are you a subject matter expert in your field? Do your peers acknowledge this? And what identifies you as a subject matter expert in your field? And I'll start with my left here. Carmen, you go first.
Lucky me.
Yes.
Welcome everybody. Good evening. Happy Friday. My name is Carmen Felder, and I'm the founder of Authentic Connections, which is a PR and business management firm. And I'm also the president of 89 Ways to Give Foundation, which is a foundation created by the legend Santana Moss, used to be the Redskins, now the Washington team. And am I an expert at what I do? Of course I'm an expert. I feel like I have the qualifications, the education, and the background. And when I say that, I would say that I've been successful at what I do. And I have lots of clients that will recommend me and back me in my profession. I have to remember the other questions because you had quite a mouthful.
Yeah, I did. I was just asking whether or not you were 100% business owner or an owner with 9 to 5 employees, just a little bit about like your actual company.
Okay, so yes, I'm 100% CEO founder. I have clients and they are under my company. I have been offered the 9 to 5s, but I'm also a native of Loudoun County. However, I went into the United States Air Force, and I just realized after I got out, I just wasn't cut out for a cube job or a desk job. My mind would wander, and I was bored, right? And I think a lot of us entrepreneurs on this call will say that you were yearning for something else, or it was killing you softly to go to this 9 to 5. And so I was one of those people, and I jumped into being an entrepreneur. And I had a lot of people behind me. However, I had a lot of failures, and every entrepreneur will tell you that I had a lot of failures, and now I can say that I have a lot of successes. So I'm 100%.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carmen. And Brandon, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Teresa, and welcome everybody. My name is Brandon Ferris, and I'm from the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development, where I'm a business development manager, and there I focus on our economic growth and development in the sectors of logistics, aerospace, and highly specialized manufacturing. So while I'm not a business owner yet, Carmen and Nicole are working with me on getting that going. I represent the county in terms of where we're looking to go with our engagement of minority businesses and making sure that, the plight of the Black business is heard. From a personal perspective, I want to look out for my people. But from a county perspective, I want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that Black business owners are heard, are advertised, are supported in any way possible. So I'm none of those things that you listed yet, but I'm a resource and I'm an asset. And I would say that I'm an expert because I've been doing business development now for the past 15 or so years. Like Carmen, my professional career started in the Air Force where I was a contracting officer. And when I got out, they liked me so much they kept me there as a contractor for a few years. And then I started working for a Black woman-owned small business in Prince George's County, where I worked there for 3 years as a business development manager and a program manager. And I got kind of as close you can get to running a business without actually being the owner, by being her right hand man. And I saw the struggles that she went through as a woman, as a Black woman, and as a business owner, kind of all up close and personal. So I've been on the front lines with her, and moving over to the county, I want to bring that perspective to our engagement of minority owned businesses. So I'm super thrilled to be a part of this.
Thank you, Brandon. You know, being a resource is still just as important. So thank you very much for being here. Vanessa, you're next.
Good evening, everybody. Great to be here. My name is Vanessa Maddox. I'm the CEO of VR Maddox Consulting, LLC. I am 100% woman-owned firm. Our company specializes in recruiting and staffing for small to medium businesses, as well as solo entrepreneurs. And we have some corporate clients as well. I started my business back in 2010. But when I was 13 years old and got my first job, I quickly knew then that I could not possibly work for anyone the rest of my life. So it's been a constant journey. It's been a hard journey, but I've learned so much from people that have not only taken me under their wing, but people that I've taken under my wing as well. Being a business owner in 2021 has its ups and has its downs, but I can be honest when I say that my company has thrived and grown despite the pandemic. And that's a feat in itself. And I know other business owners whose businesses are now thriving despite the condition we find our country in. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in Loudoun for 23 years, Leesburg for 17 years. And I've worked with everyone here, or know everyone here on the call except for Shannon. So I hope we get to know more about her. And thank you so much, Teresa. This is great.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being here. Nicole?
Yes, hello everyone, and shout out to all my Black-owned business owners here. I am Nicole Nixon, CEO and founder of Listing Central LLC. I kind of had a unique start with my company. In my early 20s, I worked for, then it was called Bell Atlantic, now it's Verizon. In my early 20s, I didn't get a chance to finish college, so I was a single mom, and I figured, well, let me go to a corporation and make them my college. I actually went into Verizon to become a customer service agent. And during one of my projects that I had volunteered for, they was looking for someone to help them with data flow management and technical data flow. So, I had volunteered, and just doing regular day-to-day work, I realized that Verizon's systems are programmed wrong. I told their IT, hey, your systems aren't working properly. And those guys, the IT guys said, that's great, Nicole, write us a requirement. I said, wonderful, what's a requirement? And that kind of started the evolution of my data career, because I wasn't even in technology. And mind you, this was over 20 years ago. From Verizon, what that project did, not only did I have to come in on the weekends, and those IT guys taught me how to write system requirements and communicate more effectively with more IT systems, I ended up rewriting Verizon's East Coast system rules for data management for wholesale customers. Fast forward, I left Verizon after about 6 years, went and worked for a cable company, Instead of then having to know one company's rules, Verizon, I learned the entire United States. So AT&T and every major monopoly phone provider, I learned their systems so that I could rewrite the cable company's data requirements. And after 10 years, the same problems I saw in the beginning with Verizon, after 10 years, those same problems existed. Now, I wasn't one of those people who said, oh, I can't wait to become an entrepreneur. That wasn't me. I went kicking and screaming, but because I was deemed a subject matter expert in my industry in telecom, it was almost as if I knew I could support the industry better by being independent than being limited to a lot of what the companies required. So in 2010, I started Listing Central LLC, and we actually take telecom subscriber data, names, addresses, and phone numbers, and now we have a system to validate that data, and then we pass the data to places like local and national 411, the local print white and yellow pages, which is also online. Google gets our data, OnStar. We are the only company that's Black owned by a woman and operated in the United States that has the control of telecom data flow. So I'm honored to be in this position, and it's now been 10 years. And when Carmen mentioned about making mistakes, oh, I've made plenty. There was no blueprint, especially being the only African-American woman in this position and being a wife and being a mother of 5, I just didn't fit in any boxes. So I had a lot to learn, but I am definitely 100% business owner. And simply because of being a subject matter expert, I had to separate myself to distinguish me now as a business owner versus an employee. And it has worked. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. Still learning, still growing, still making mistakes, but the growth is real.
That's right. Thank you very much, Nicole. Shannon?
Absolutely.
Hello and happy Friday, everybody. My name is Shannon Curvay. I am owner of Function and Fitness. I have another contractor that works underneath me. So we're kind of a 2-woman show at this point. And what we do is we basically help people manage their chronic health conditions through therapeutic massage and corrective exercise, medical exercise, and post-rehab exercise. I've been in fitness for 20 years. I started when I was 2 years old. And so it's been a while. Function and Fitness is 5 years old now, just turned 5 in May of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. I looked up and was like, oh my goodness, it's been 5 years. I can't celebrate though. And so when the world truly opens up again, we'll do a little celebration. But I, truly enjoy what I do. Like I said, I've been in the fitness industry for 20 years, and it has been a struggle. Function and Fitness was born out of my observation of a gap that existed between healthcare and fitness. And what I recognized with that was that there was no safe place for people to go once they were discharged from their healthcare providers. They were sent to the gym, and I worked in big box gyms for a number of years, and there were no trainers who were qualified to deal with people who had disc herniations or knee replacements, rotator cuff injuries, things of that nature, diabetes, hypertension, the things that are very common, but unfortunately, a lot of personal trainers are not qualified to deal with these types of clients. And so I myself saw this need and decided that I would create Function and Fitness to fill that gap. And so I've been in Loudoun County for the last 5 years. I've been living in Loudoun County for probably about, I think, the last 10 years, 11 years. But Function and Fitness has been in existence the last 5 years. And I'm just happy to be here this evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. Yes, I look forward to my invitation. Jennifer with Oh So Good Organics.
Hi, everyone. How's your Friday evening? This Friday evening at 7 p.m. Thank you for having me, Teresa. Hello to all the other panelists. I've been tracking your work too, and it's lovely and on point. And I'm so excited to see your growth in your respective spheres over the years. So a little bit of background and to answer Teresa's questions. Yes, I have an academic background in apothecary, in horticulture, and in herbalism. So I practice apothecary and herbalism and horticulture every day. I'm actually still in school pursuing my bachelor's in horticulture, which is kind of cool. So I also practice every day. In fact, I've got a couple of infusions going on in my little lab downstairs. Yes, I am 100% women owned. I hire professional labor as needed, part-time, usually when we are in full-on manufacturing our wholesale products, which are our soy candles, our bath bombs, and our soap, just to process those POs. So a little bit about me. I am also former Air Force. I was a aircraft armament systems specialist, which is a fancy way of saying I worked on the weapon systems of the aircraft that I worked on, which segued into my career in IT. So after I got out of the Air Force, I wanted to continue working with equipment, which is, I find a lot, I don't know, I just find it a lot easier for me to work with equipment sometimes other than people. I know I shouldn't say that, but it's true. So I was in IT for about 17 years. I started off as a telco field technician, which was great because I got to manage 6 different sites and each site had its own gear. So I had to learn each piece of equipment, and each piece of equipment back then, had its own language, TL1 commands. I'm sure Nicole knows about this. And this is before, we had tablets. So you had to memorize all the TL1 commands to input into the gear, which was fascinating to me that I don't know, I felt like I was talking to the gear and we understood each other. Maybe that was in my head, I don't know, but nonetheless. And then the industry changed. Back then it was MCI WorldCom, now Verizon. And, once the initial infrastructure gets rolled out, then that's when the environment gets kind of transitioned into maintenance and response. And then you upgrade and you deploy as necessary. But it was no longer fun anymore. We didn't get to create anymore. And I was kind of getting bored. And then they tried to put me in management and I said, absolutely not. I just want to stay in engineering. And then after I had my son, and this is how I had no inclination at the time to go into entrepreneurship or form an LLC. But I did notice my increasing, dissatisfaction with just with my career, and I didn't see it really going anywhere in terms of creativity. So interestingly enough, after I had my son, my skin started to change. I could no longer wear over-the-counter body care. I would break out in hives immediately. And so I asked my doctor, what's going on? Why am I breaking out in hives? And I think the way he said it to me is what really stuck in my head. He was both exasperated and concerned. And he said, well, now you women, or he said, you women can see what this stuff that you're putting on your body is actually doing to you. So you just had a baby, your internal organs are under stress right now. But 70% of what you put on to your skin topically gets absorbed, and then your system has to process it. And all, the advent of the Industrial Revolution, your body doesn't know what this stuff is. It still has to process it anyway, because that's what the body does, but it doesn't recognize it as anything natural. So if you look back through human history, we were an agricultural, we're a agrarian society before the start of the Industrial Revolution. And so I said, well, then I really need to go back home and I need to start making my own products. And then when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in Okinawa, and I remember going off base and seeing the farmers, both male and female, were kind of up in age, 60s, 70s, because the farms get passed down generation to generation. And it's just kind of their work philosophy. You work until you retire. Retirement means when you can no longer work anymore. And so, but their bodies were really spry. So I was asking myself, like, what are they eating? What are they putting on their skin? Because they looked amazing. And I researched and found out that there's heavy into quote unquote Eastern herbalism, both topically and internally, and just, their philosophical approach to life and how they work, and the food that they eat from the farm, what they grow, and then a lot of, aquatic life, which has a lot of fish oils in it. So I remembered all of that. And if you look at, like South Korean beauty care, if you look at the ingredients, you'll see that it looks like an herbalist's formulation. And so I said, well, this is kind of a no-brainer. They look great. I'm going to do the same thing. So I started making my own products for my own use. And, going back to being an engineer, of course, I had to have beta testers. So I would give my friends the products that I made and asked for feedback. And what I found is that they would come to me every 2 weeks to 30 days. So I noticed a pattern, and that's typical when you have, essentials, bath body care essentials. And I was getting a lot of requests also to bring new products to market. So I said, well, I wonder if I can actually turn this into a business and make something out of this, because I was increasingly becoming dissatisfied in my career at the time. And but I did notice that retail was very difficult to break into. There's no way I could sustain a business unless I had, a huge amount of capital that I could raise, in the millions, in order to really disrupt the market. So I switched gears and I switched platforms, and I went over to wholesale, and I started going to, these wholesale shows in New York and Texas, and it really paid off. We got some of our, big clients, Home Goods, Whole Foods, Mid-Atlantic, and that's been our platform ever since. So I formed the LLC in 2013, and it was in 2017 where we landed our first large PO, and we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to expand. So that's a little bit about me. I hope I answered everything, Teresa.
Yes, you did. And thank you all so much for sharing your journeys. It's really important to me, as I myself am a Loudoun County business owner, that we show the multifaceted lives and reasons each of us goes into business and what it means. I find knowing the story of the owner helps connect with where our heads are and why it's important to know these backstories, is to feed the reasons why buying Black is important. And so I want to ask tonight's owners, what does buying Black mean to you? You hear that everywhere. It seems to be sort of like a nice little word and hashtag people have right now, but what does it actually mean to you? And then, being a Loudoun County resident and business owner, what resources would you like to see, or have you seen, that help Black small business owners in Loudoun County have the success stories you all have shared? And anybody can go first. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. All right, fine, I'll go put people on the spot. Nicole?
Well, let me say, for me, it's actually very different in regards to what I think about when I hear what it means to buy Black, because I'm in data, right? So I don't have a storefront. I'm behind the scenes. However, it's important for me to be conscious of making sure that all of the Black-owned businesses can be found so people can buy Black, right? So I'm pretty sure everyone feels this, but we all play a role to make sure that when we grow, our communities grow. And for me, if I can make sure that all of the Black-owned businesses across the world can be found, then I feel I'm doing my part to make sure that people will invest in those businesses, because we will definitely invest back into the communities.
Absolutely, that is absolutely correct. And Carmen, did you want to say what it means to buy Black to you?
Yeah, when I heard the question, I try to dig deep a little bit on how I look at buying Black. And when I think about it, I feel like we're really comfortable in being followers, a lot of us, right? And when we look at the commercials and when we look at the advertisements, it's typically the commercialized companies, right? And it's not even like we know it works, right? Or the business is good. It's just because it's Johnson & Johnson. It's just because it's Walmart. And we have to get out of our comfort zone and support each other. And so Buying Black is, instead of getting some facial cream, I'm gonna go to my girl, Jennifer, and be like, I'm gonna start getting her cream, or instead of going to Google and looking for a product or a service, I'm gonna look in my Black community. I'm gonna ask my sisters and my brothers and say, hey, what person or what service in the Black community, what the Black business should I go after and use? And then not only that, I'm gonna promote that business, right? And I'm gonna continue to support them, because if each person decided to buy Black, that business's revenue would go up so much more, right? But it's really getting out of our comfort zone. It's really doing something different and being driven and picking out individuals in your community that you can support. So that's how I would think about when I'm buying Black.
Yeah, I have to second what Carmen just said. And just to kind of add to that, if you look back to the history of how, this land, this country was colonized and monopolized, it was occupying space, and then taking over the resources, and then basically owning the resources and then doling them out to the populace. So if we're going to be successful within that business model, then unless we are able to completely, change it and revolutionize it from within, this is a business model that we're in. So we also have to occupy space. We also have to, have products or have something that's important to society in order to give them in exchange for commerce, in exchange for money. But also, I remember being in IT, just having Black skin was important. Just me showing up to work and being good at my job. It was unfair, but nonetheless, I understood that I was acting and speaking and behaving on behalf of the culture. And it was important for, the next wave of Black women, Black male engineers that were coming into the industry, that I was seeing doing my work, and I was seen doing a good job. And I couldn't just show up and be mediocre. I had to show up and I had to crush it. I had to show up and I had to write new code. I had to show up and I had to, be known in my respected sphere as writing new directions on how to respond to outages. So that we have to, I like what Carmen said about we get conditioned to be followers, and we have to, and you hear this over and over and over again, we have to, get out of your comfort zone. Success is on the other side of fear. Success is on the other side of your comfort zone. That is so true. And I don't know how to drive it home, but it really is a matter of survival. If you really want to condense it, we have to be, and it's exhausting, but then you can go see Shannon, you can work out and you can feel better after you've put forth all that mental and emotional and physical energy of staying focused every day. But yeah, being a Black business owner, I find some of the motivation, like if I don't want to get up in the morning, it might sound weird, but I really feel like I'm doing this for the culture. I'm doing this for humanity.
Right.
Just to even piggyback on what Jennifer is saying, our industry has changed from when our parents and grandparents were building and becoming entrepreneurs then. We're now in an industry where we before we can buy Black, we have to build Black. You know, we have to build our people to a point where they can have a choice, where the Black businesses can be strong enough to support their communities.
Right.
We're not even there yet. You know, it's like once we get close enough, something else changes. And the majority is now 50 steps ahead of us. Now we have to catch up to that. And then on top of that, the government wasn't prepared to support us catching up, right? So we're constantly in a catch-up game to prepare and allow our communities to buy Black, but we haven't been able to build yet. So we have to build so we can buy.
Right.
And the other thing that's really important when you're talking about buying Black is that we have to do a deeper dive, and this is probably another show, Teresa, but we need to do a deeper dive and talk about our whys. Why did we start our businesses? What happened in our lives that propelled us forward? Because not everybody is called to be an entrepreneur. We are a special breed. Indeed. And my why was to build a legacy for my children. When I was coming up, what did we hear? I'm a Gen Xer. What did we hear? Go to school, get a high school diploma, go to college, get a college degree, and get a good job. Okay? That has evolved. Get a high school diploma, get a college degree if you want. Okay? It's not built for everyone. And start a business, okay? We need to add that to the back end of what we tell our children in 2021, because they have so many more options than we had coming up. So it's about legacy building. It's about creating generational wealth, like the Kennedys and the Rockefellers. But like Nicole said, we have a lot of catching up to do. We're behind in a lot of ways. Carmen, Nicole, and myself talk about this all the time, about how far behind the Black community is right now, even though we have all of these super talented people on this call and listening. We have to keep going forward and making sure that who comes along with us are prepared as well.
I'm so glad you said that, because that sort of goes into the next part of this. So yes, we are generationally behind, and many generations behind sort of the curve right now. And those of us that have kids, we are encouraging our children to move beyond what was told to us. But Brandon, I think this is a question for you. You know, you hear what we're saying, and you are working in this space where you are providing economic development resources. What type of resources do you guys offer? And if we're talking to someone on this call today who is thinking about becoming a business owner, and specifically becoming a Black business owner, because, you know, that's a whole nother level, right? What type of resources are out there to help sort of close that gap in what we're looking at right now?
Absolutely, and that's kind of what it's all about, is closing the gap. I'll take a step to the side for a second. I'm going to answer that question, but coming from the federal space first, right, from the Air Force, doing government contracting, you know, and that's really the entry point for a lot of Black businesses into starting their own thing, is being a federal government contractor, or, you know, kind of being former government, and they got tired of it and they figured they can start their own thing. You know, there's programs that are inherent to the federal government to help businesses grow from there. You're talking about the 8A program, your small business programs, your disadvantaged business programs at a federal level. But it's on a state or a locality to kind of, implement programs like that. And a lot of times it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen at the same level. So, you know, here in Loudoun County, you know, we've recognized that, you know, we may not have been doing the best job of reaching out and publicizing ourselves to the minority business community to say that, hey, we're a resource. Like, did you know that Loudoun County has a small business program set up with George Mason University for first-time business owners to kind of walk them through all of the steps to create a business you might not have known? Or did you know that we do have access to certain financial resources or relationships with credit unions and other small banks that will help you say yes when other people said no? again, you may not have known that. And so, it all connects in it to say that, we have programs, but news doesn't travel in the Black community the same way that it travels in other communities. And that was one of the first things I said to V, Carmen, and Nicole when I met them, was that, Loudoun County did an excellent job with their business interruption funds, grants this year. We did great. Not a lot of minority-owned businesses knew about that program until our 5th and final round, because information didn't travel the same way, and you don't know what you don't know. So, we're making efforts to make that a different conversation. I can speak for both of us, me and the county, like we're two different folks. But, we want to make sure that, the information is getting out there, that the county is being utilized as an asset for everybody. But for me personally, I'm going to make sure my folks know. I want to make sure that, I'm a resource and I'm an asset for the community that I grew up in, metaphorically, physically, professionally, spiritually, all those things. And so, the county's mission is going to be reflected in mine and vice versa. I'll champion it until I can't anymore. That, by connecting to small businesses, by connecting to minority-owned businesses, this is how you create the conglomerates of the future, right? The people that are in power now in businesses aren't native to this country. So they had to do the same thing that we are trying to do now, building that generational wealth, standing on the backs of others to boost yourselves up, to grow, to help each other, pull each other, seed and fund each other in a way that leads to growth for everybody.
Thank you. I want to ask a question because you said a couple keywords there, and that's about growth and being able to sort of like focus on what that looks like to expand your business, expand your network, and to get your business to a place. And I want to take this conversation to another level for a second. During the spring, we had a bit of a rejuvenation of the Black Lives Matter movement. And as a business owner, and I can speak for myself, I was like in the groove. I'm trying to I'm getting my marketing, I'm getting all these things done. And then there was like this hard disruptive stop, right, in my head. And I'm also mother of 3 boys. So now all of these things are happening while I'm trying to be a successful business owner. And, I already know being Black in America, what that means. And I'm already dealing with that in my career, et cetera. But I'm trying to move into this space where I want to be my own entrepreneur. I want to create generational wealth. But now this thing happens where I have to stop because it's not, I don't get to pretend it's not happening because it is happening to me. And I wonder if any of you all felt that sort of moment when you were just like, are you serious right now? I am trying to get my business to where it needs to be. And this, seriously, 2021, I just want to know if anybody else felt that, because I feel like that is a layer of, as a Black business owner, we did not get to just plow through it and just pretend like it wasn't happening and, launch a new marketing exercise or launch a new whatever. We had to stop. It just smacked us in the face. So I just want to know how you all experience that, sort of and share that with the community, what that looks like.
Yeah, I'll go, Teresa, I think because you saw it happen with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were 3 months into moving into our first facility. We had our wholesale component, the wholesale portion of our operation needed a new space, and the POs are coming in right on time. We were actually moving into negotiations with taking on additional buyers, and then COVID hit and everything stopped. The POs stopped. No money was coming in, and we were relying on the payments, the payoff from the POs to keep the business going. Again, because we were bootstrapping everything. We didn't want to go into debt, taking on loans or anything like that. We tried to do Kickstarters and GoFundMes and stuff like that, or tapping into the Black community for partners. But none of that ever came to fruition. So all the money going into the business was literally our 401k and from out of pocket. So when that stopped, we were like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I was dealing with some strange stuff. I noticed when Black business owners, you know, really get their stuff together, Black people get their stuff together, you know, the Caucasian community can be pretty vindictive. They don't want to see you succeed. And some of the other smaller businesses that occupied, because we co-shared space, it was so funny. They would do things in order to harass me. They would park in my parking spots, ask me very strange questions. Oh, you must have, you know, gotten help from Obama or something like that. Just strange, bizarre stuff. So that there's that element that, you know, Black owners have to contend with. And then, yeah, and so we had to shut down operations, move everything, you know, back into the garage. But then again, Black folks are really resilient. You know, I'm getting tired of that word pivot because we've been doing it so often within, you know, going into 2021, but that's what we had to do. So, you know, circling back around to retail, I had built up, you know, a small following on Instagram. So I said, okay, well, let's get our e-commerce going and really boost that up and get some web sales going to fill in until, you know, we can get the wholesale up and going again. And it wasn't long. We just had to stay the course. And I knew that wholesale would pick up again because our buyers were still employed with their respective companies. So I was like, okay, so this is going to turn around. They're going to start buying soon, which they have. So just stay the course, not getting discouraged, looking around you, seeing what other businesses are doing. And I noticed that the other businesses around me weren't too worried either. And I just noticed how, you know, how they went about their business savings and how when, you know, stuff got crazy, where they went to in order to get funding, you know, predominantly Caucasian businesses. So I watched how they conducted themselves and I learned from that.
Thank you.
You know, if I could address this question, again, I don't fit any models or norms. So my growth as a business owner has been a struggle from day zero. I'll never forget when one of my customers saw me and said, hey, Nicole, wow, you know, you're still in business. You started from the bottom up. I said, no, I started below the bottom to get to the bottom to get where I am. But the Black Lives Matter movement, I really need everyone to understand, as a Black business owner, if you weren't already involved in your community before that movement occurred, something's wrong. Okay, I'm glad you're awake now. But for us, for many of us, we were already, should have been already active in our communities to prevent what we're seeing more of occur. Right. The only difference that's happened more recently is that it's been recorded. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't need to see a video to know it was real, but some people did. Right. So ironically, now that it has become more visible to those who may have been a little asleep, now Black business owners can potentially get more support and have things change so that we can receive more funding where we actually qualify for it. I mean, we are the most deprived of people, but yet there are loans that have so many strict guidelines. It's like, why would we even apply? You know, why would we even try? So if there's anything I can hope people understand with the Black Lives Matter movement, it's more so to say, it's time for the communities to come together. If you wasn't doing it before, make a plan to do it now. Because if you're not taking care of your community, nobody's buying anything.
Very true. That's very true. And so as a Black business owner and realizing that there are many obstacles that may not be in the way of other business communities, what would you say your thoughts were around how the shift in our conversations and some of the policy changes that have been proposed around not, especially with the COVID happening. And so, there's focus on, keeping America, running, right, economically. But what would you say some of the policy changes that are happening in Loudoun that you would like to see discussed or enacted as it relates to you as a business owner, and specifically as a Black business owner, access to grants, et cetera?
So I'm a former elected official, and I sit on several boards and commissions in Loudoun. And one of the most critical things that I learned throughout all of those processes is that the squeaky wheels get the oil. Okay. We need to show up at the town council meetings. We need to show up at the board meetings for the board of supervisors. We need to support the support the candidates that have our best interest at heart. Okay. If you want to support a candidate that's running currently, you need to call that candidate, sit down with them and say, hey, I'm a business owner in this county, and I need to know what your stance is on supporting small business, period. And depending on their response, depends on whether you support them and give them money. They work for us. We do not work for them. So in terms of paying attention to policy, tune into those meetings. When COVID lets up off of us, go to those meetings in person, have your questions pre-prepared, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, I even want things to be even more intentional with the government, meaning not only should we show up, I want our government to recognize the need for us to be at that table, not the same people at that table making decisions for communities they've never even been in. The government needs to give us a seat or make a seat available. We're talking equality, but you only have 2 types of people at the table. Then how do you know everyone's being addressed? And secondly, we need to start measuring something. I see a lot of people saying we're doing a lot for our people. Well, how do you know? Because if you're not measuring what we're doing, then how can you know something's getting done or that it's even effective? So when they come ask me, that's what I'm gonna tell them, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, one of the things I found in retail with the BLM movement is the Black community's response to Black-owned businesses. So as prior to BLM, it was very interesting. A lot of Black business owners wouldn't, on their social media, you didn't know that they were Black-owned. Because in the past, nobody would buy from you if it was known that you were Black-owned. But with the advent of BLM, now you have a huge response from the community, all communities, if you describe yourself as a Black female-owned business. It was great. We knew that there would be, initial responders, and that's just, consumer pathology. And, back to what Nicole was saying, now that everybody's woke, but we know American consumer pathology. So we knew that there would be a short window of response from consumers and potential partnerships outside of the Black community. But we knew that the Black community would be your loyal customer base. So we've seen a huge response from the Black community supporting Black business. And it's a really beautiful kind of organic network that's being created. Absolutely. And then when you have those small pockets of change and windows and responders coming to you, you really have to figure out how to capitalize them. And we don't always know how to do that. The Black community has been stopped from doing that. Research, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to say no and turn stuff away, and then be strategic about, what you enter into, because you can't do everything. But yet that's what I found. That's the pattern that I found.
Interesting that you say that, because, you know, even with the layer of the BLM movement and then COVID, I wonder, you know, did you feel like your business started growing or stagnating, or did you feel like, you know, the two sort of huge events happening, converging in 2020, sort of affected how you ran your business or what you were planning?
Oh, all of that. Even emotionally, because at first I was a little annoyed with, oh, now that, you know, we have all of this televised, now everybody's woke. Now you want to, you know, do business with me. Well, you didn't before, but I've always been here. So emotionally, I had to get past that. And I had to approach it strictly from a business methodology and take advantage of the opportunities, if you want to call them that, or the space that was being opened up, all of the grants, the you know, the PPP loans, I remember, who was the lady back in like the late 90s, early 2000s? I can't remember her name, but she was the one doing, she was always on TV doing stocks and, you know, teaching people how to invest their money. And she said something that always stuck with me. She said, I was an affirmative action hire. Nobody wanted to hire me. But as soon as I got over my ego and my hurt feelings, I took advantage of the space like that. She's like, it might not be pretty, but this space is available for you to take advantage of. And so that's how I've been approaching, you know, the opportunities that have opened up post BLM, during BLM.
So let me just jump in really quickly. So my business is a little different than you all's. A lot of you guys are, you know, kind of work from home. As a massage therapist in a fitness facility, I was shut down until June. I wasn't allowed to open until June. And this was right after George Floyd, right? And so, you know, there was uncertainty about my position, my business position, you know, opening in June, because, you know, the state of Virginia was like, everybody stay home. And so I'm like, okay, well, now I'm opening. Are my clients going to come back? Right? Number one, because of COVID. And number two, in Loudoun County, I don't know how y'all feel about Black folks. You know, I found that, you know, we're somewhat in Trump country in Leesburg, where my business is operated. And through conversations with clients, because on the massage table, people tell you everything. And why, you know, some folks would want to disclose that they are Trump supporters to somebody who looks like me. I'm not quite sure, but, you know, I was uncertain. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was a lot of, I mean, I caution to say fear. You know, reopening after everything that had happened. Number one, you know, we're dealing with the pandemic, and then on top of that, you know, the social and racial unrest. You know, and so it took a lot to just sometimes get up and go to work every day, because, you know, I don't know what people are feeling. And so that was, you know, that was a little tough. Things did slow down, and eventually things picked up in July and August. After I think some of the Black Lives Matter protests and things slowed down a little bit. And I don't know if there's any correlation, but that was, you know, my observation.
Carmen, you were off mute when Survey had something to say.
Yes, so I kind of dealt with it a little bit different. Of course, not only did Black Lives Matter happen, but we also had the pandemic, right? With my profession, we do a lot of events, and people look forward to these events. They're sold out and they get excited. So I have some of my clients and some of the people who come to our events are like, are you going to still have it? And I'm getting constant emails. And then we're listening to the governor every day. Is he going to change it? What phase are we going to be in? But deep down, I was okay with it. I was okay with being at home and having that quietness. Because when you're always on, like a light switch, you never have a time to just relax and be with your family or just be with yourself. And I'm a vibration person. So when all this stuff started happening and you see it all on the news, I had to turn the news off. because it was affecting me mentally. And then you go on social media and people who you think were your friends are talking crazy. Are they really my friends? So I had to go into my toolbox. And when I say my toolbox, I think that's how my term I use it. All of us have these emotional toolboxes and these tools, how you react and how you act when things come up. And sometimes when we get in situations that are overwhelming, we get scared, but we've kind of been through that before. So I go in my toolbox and I'm like, okay, how am I going to react to this? So I sat down with my son and I said, okay, I have some extra time. How can we help the Black community? I didn't pivot because I really don't like that word either, Jennifer. I feel like it was overused in 2020. However, I used the extra time and attention to help Black businesses. That was going to be one of my gives, right? Something that I can help other businesses have a legacy and grow and be powerful. So I took all that negative energy and created something positive. And sometimes that's hard. And sometimes it's hard to be with yourself because as long as you're moving, constantly moving, you kind of forget who you are as an individual, right? Individually and business-wise. So if there's extra classes, I'm on it. Extra seminars, I'm on it. Because this is a time for me to grow, right? Where other people, they get antsy, they're at home, they don't have anything to do. But there's now, we all say we don't have enough time in the day. When everything first happened, we had so much time. We're like, okay, I need to paint that wall. I need to do that. So I think you can take it as a negative or a positive, right? And if you train yourself, and I believe in affirmations and I believe in and being positive, you have to train your mind when you get in these situations like this to be productive and successful instead of thinking of, well, tomorrow am I going to be able to still maintain my home and so forth. You just have to be positive. And even when you're in the darkness, you have to think, okay, it can't always last, right? We all know, Mama said, okay, the storm is going to be over sometime and the sun's going to come out. So I would say for my businesses who are going through stuff right now, it's going to be over eventually. But while you're going through it, change, make great opportunities for yourself, meet new people, right? Get some seminars, education. That's going to make a difference for when you're outside of this situation.
That's a really good point, and that's a really good way to sort of try to, and I'm gonna use the word we don't really like, pivot, right? Like where your mind is, where and what space you're in, because as a business owner, you have to always be on. And then if you have a job at the same time, then you're even on even longer. Your time is stretched out, and Lord knows you might not even have time for self-care. So thank you for sharing that, because it does give sort of a pathway, a different approach to how things might be happening. So my final question to you all would be about how you would describe the state of equity as it pertains to being a Black business owner in Loudoun County, and has it directly or indirectly influenced how you conduct business? I just want to share with the people, what it truly, let's take this home, what it really truly means to be to buy Black in Loudoun, because you are speaking as the business owner. So how would you describe that state of equity and what influence it has on you?
I'd like to take that one. So I'm a recruiter. My firm specializes in recruiting and staffing, and I'm going to speak from a recruiter standpoint. So I identify talent for a living. And in my field, it's female dominated, but it's not Black female dominated or women of color dominated. So in terms of equity, we're kind of getting there, but we got a long way to go. So there are two hands full of Black recruiters that have made it to a specific level in the business where we can say, okay, we're now positioned to go to pursue those large contracts. And when that happens, then it is our responsibility to reach back and bring those others with us. If that doesn't happen, then we're not going to rise to the level where we need to be to just catch up, like Nicole said, in order to achieve our place in this particular industry that I'm in. Now, another thing I wanted to add, someone said earlier about that people need to let us in or allow us to come in. I want to just add something to that. They don't have to do that. We have to bust down the door and come in. And if I hadn't done that in the beginning of my career, I wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you all today, because those doors were not opening at all. So a lot of things that I've done in my life and my career, particularly my career, I've had to put myself in those rooms. So if you're not like me, there are other ways for Black and brown business owners to step over those thresholds where we are still being excluded from. So just think about in your own mind, like Carmen said, you got to change your mindset about a lot of things that are going on in the world. You have to adjust, and don't ever think that there's any room on this planet that you cannot get into, because you can.
Mm-hmm. Hear, hear. I second that. Yeah, I'm fully aware. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole, do you want to go?
No, well, I just want to make a quick point, and then I'll be quiet as well. But just to quickly address the question from a data perspective, you know, what's our pulse and how do we feel about the equity stands for Black businesses in Loudoun? When the Black Lives Matter movement happened, I'm sure many of you saw this, everyone started scrambling for a Black business directory. Mm. No one had it, including Loudoun County. So even as they attempt to create one, I'll build one. Because there are pockets of people who have their own, but we can't be separate. We must be inclusive. And once the businesses are in the database, make sure you can tell if they're Black owned, you know, or what their specialty is, so people can find them and support them properly. So that's my take.
Good point. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, here, Nicole, there's this wonderful, we call it the Black Amazon, there's the nihilist. And so we're finding all of these, and I believe, Teresa, you came with me to their launch. So there's these avenues that are available to the Black community to sell and to work within the Black community to gain generational wealth. I'm fully aware that what I'm building right now, it's going to, hopefully, you know, I would love to transfer it over to my son, but it's going to take at least a generation or two to, if I'm interested in becoming as big as a Johnson & Johnson or as big as a major manufacturer, it's going to take a lot of time and money and maybe, you know, a couple of generations to get there, but I have to start now. I have to just fully commit all of my intention, all of my energy, all of my headspace, fully commit to that, with that as the end goal. I think
yeah. Thank you so much for you all. Did you any other closing words from any of our panelists?
I just want to close out by giving a big shout out to Jennifer Knockvey. She's my girl. I've been using her products literally for years. They're all around my house. My son was having a problem with dry skin and eczema, and she called me up and she created a formula just for him. He used it for a week and it cleared up. So everybody out there, go buy from Jennifer, Oh So Good Organics. She's tested and she's proven. And like I said, I've been using her products for years. So go, Jennifer, go.
Thank you.
Shannon, were you about to say something? I thought Shannon was about to say something. You're good.
But I have to second that. My one client, Santana Moss, he's like, "Where's that lady? That lady with the juices and berries, or what?" I don't know how he said it.
Juices and berries. That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Man, I put that on my beard, and I mean, it's just, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some more. Okay, and then he like texts me again. Hey, did you talk to that lady? You know, and I'm like, okay, so I have to back that up and say her products are amazing. They smell delicious, and I still have some of her soaps in my bathrooms. Also, I wanted to finish out and say that one thing that we didn't talk about that's very important is our youth, right? We kind of talked about it, right? Because generational wealth, that's hopefully our sons or daughters and other youth in the community. That's huge. And a lot of times when we have events, I intentionally reach out to the youth so they can watch us, because they're sponges, right? And they're just absorbing everything. And we need to remember that, right? So my son, he's a part of my company, and he listens to every conversation, and I explain how I do things and why I do things, and even my mistakes and my successes. And he asks me questions. We need to continue to bring those children in the room and let them be there. Also, when it comes to funding, there are so many grants out. And let's not even talk about Loudoun, right? All these companies, after Black Lives Matter happened, I'm giving $1 million to Black businesses. I'm giving this, and they have to get rid of it, right? It's all about applying. And even if you use the same template every time, it's a numbers game. We all know numbers, right? You apply for 100, and if you get 10, that 10 could take you to the top, right? You got all this time, half the time we up watching Netflix, okay? Take an hour from that Netflix and apply for some Coca-Cola, Tito's, Johnson. I mean, and I'm talking millions, okay? And when you go to their websites, it's not that hard, okay? It's just about trying. So that's getting out of your comfort zone once again, and just looking for it. And then if it's successful, pass it on to your girlfriends and your other sisters and brothers. Don't keep that knowledge to yourself, okay? So that's my opinion. And tell your kiddies, right? And get them prepared for college or other.
So my question, I have a question. How do we, because we are, just a handful of the Black businesses in Loudoun, right? As Nicole mentioned, there are sporadic websites that have popped up that you can get on this list, you can get on that list. I am appreciative of, I think I'm listed on maybe 2. I think it's Loudoun Shops Black, and then Virginia Black Business Directory. So grateful for that. But I feel like for the Loudoun people, to know that we are even here, I feel like we need to somehow do more forums. I know there's a Juneteenth celebration coming up in June. But outside of that, how can we as Black businesses come together more often to show our visibility, right? To my knowledge, there's not like a Black Business Expo in Loudoun or, something to that effect. If there is one, I haven't been invited, so that's another conversation. But I feel like, and I don't know if this is, something for Brandon to, address, or, the Virginia Democratic Committee. I don't know who this goes to, but I do recognize that there is a lack of visibility for us. You talk about the youth. I grew up, my mom was a business owner. So I knew, I went to a church that had dentists and lawyers and judges and all of those things. And so I saw that, but I'm afraid that a lot of our youth are not seeing us. And so I think, as far as next steps, I think that's something that, we should consider as our community,
Yeah, Shannon, if I could definitely recommend you stay in touch with Brandon, because we will make sure that we all stay connected to build exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's the point. And you, Shannon, you let it down to what was going to be my closing comment, is that, my job is at a macro level is to kind of create relationships. So, I create relationships for the county with other businesses, but we need to create relationships with ourselves and expand that net. Don't just connect to Carmen and stop there. Connect and take it to the next level. Make it exponential. You connect me once, I'll connect you twice. You connect me twice, I'll connect you 4 times. So we have to build our own network. It's not anything that hasn't been done before. It's the same thing that other folks have done and been doing. We just have to leverage it to our advantage. And I can honestly speak for, the business owners here that we are working on that. We are working on that for taking these 5, 6 fingers that we have on here and making one strong fist so that we can make a solid impact on the next move that we make. So stay connected with us. Is all I'm saying.
And Shannon, I think that also, I was telling Nicole this and she was laughing at me. I feel like, I don't know if you remember that time where there were only like 4 Black actors. We would always see it was Gabrielle Union and Morris Chestnut, and he was in The Wood and then The Marriage and all, right? It was like, they felt there was no other Black people that could act, right? Well, sometimes we do that in our own neighborhood. They're the same panelists, the same group of people who we look to. There are a lot of Black businesses, successful businesses. Now, either they're not stepping up or we're not reaching out. We don't need to see the same people. I feel like I can't learn from the same person every time at an event. I want to see a new face. I want to learn about a new business. So we have to take ownership of that and either step up and say, I want to be a speaker, or find someone who hasn't spoken, because we kind of have that same movie with Gabrielle Union and Morris Chestnut. And I'm tired of watching that movie. I'm sorry. I like to see other actresses and actors. Okay.
That's a very good point. And thank you all so much. And I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to bring these topics to the forefront, because you're absolutely right. We need to create the relationships for ourselves, and as we network and meet new people. And because I got here about like 13 years ago, and I swear I thought I was the only Black person that lived here. So I know, I'm sure other people feel the same way without knowing. So we need to create those relationships. And thank you, Brandon. So I'm gonna, me personally, I know I'm gonna be like, hey, Brandon, remember me? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's sort of what we all need to do. So thank you, all of you all, for tuning in to find out what it means to buy Black in Loudoun. And a special thank you to our panelists today for opening up this conversation and just having great words of wisdom and really sort of shedding the light on what it really means to be not only a business owner, but a Black business owner, because that's what we're doing today. Even though every day is Black History Celebration, this is Black History Month. So thank you all once again for joining us, and thank you for special thank you to all of my panelists, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one.